I have no clue how good to expect this deck to be. I felt vaguely comfortable with Jeskai control, and this is sort of similar, but I'm imagining the mulliganing is going to be very, very different. And I don't even know whether I felt like Jeskai control was truly excellent anyway. It just didn't feel like we could get it to a place where it had a particularly great blue-white auras matchup. But maybe having a good blue-white auras matchup just isn't my job. Maybe I'm supposed to make that matchup as acceptable as it can be and then move on to winning other grindier matchups. So we'll take the play. We have a hand that doesn't have a Lotus Field. Are we supposed to mulligan any hand that doesn't have a Lotus Field? Turns out you shouldn't have changed your Honda deck after the first day you built it. In what sense? Because other folks were playing the older version? I wanted more answers to Goldspan Dragon, which I think was probably correct, but I don't know. I do still think that I like where my version of the deck ended up at. I think I would run something very, very similar back. Other than maybe I think I want to try out Fateful Absence in Standard. I think I'm just supposed to mulligan a hand that doesn't have a Lotus Field. That might be wrong, but I kind of feel like that. This one does have a Lotus Field, but no way to use it yet. So I guess we're just going to hope that works out for us. I should throw back Deserted Beach and play Hallowed Fountain on turn 1, because I do actually have check lands. Playing Hallowed Fountain tapped is strictly better than playing the other dual land tapped. Alright. Looking for some sort of thing to interact with Lotus Field. Narset does not do that. I do kind of wonder if there's a world in which I was supposed to get rid of either Deluge or Teferi to have one more land drop before I have to play the Lotus Field. Maybe? Maybe. I suppose in that case I'd probably rather get rid of Teferi? Keep the Memory Deluge, maybe? After some testing in the metagame challenge, I was pretty happy cutting gambits. It might be if there's a lack of mirror matches or mid-range decks that the gambits aren't necessary. But I kind of assumed that there were going to be a lot of control decks. And I feel like Gambit is something I want to have if I'm playing any kind of control mirror. Alright, well, we hit the untap land and just get to play Narset, so that feels pretty good. Let's see, we got one Arclight Phoenix in the graveyard. How are they doing on Delirium? Sorcery, instant. Delirium is active. I think that means that I go ahead and downtick Narset. We have... I think Plains is like one of literally only 2 non-Archmage's Charm sources in the deck, so that kind of hurts. Gambit just requires so much mana to do anything. True, but the deck's pretty good about making a lot of mana. And a lot of control mirrors come down to having a lot of mana. Is Phoenix 2 spells or 3? It's 3, right? Yeah. Oh, hello, Stifle. That's a good draw. Pretty sure I need to hold full control here. So we're going to do that. Alright. I feel like we should be capable of winning this now, right? We still have an annoying Narset in play. I think I've already resolved a copy to Windfall, the Gambits just win more. I don't agree with that when it comes to control mirrors, though. Gambit is the most effective card at actually taking your opponent tapping out at the end of their turn to fight over Windfall wars in any kind of control mirror, and then just killing them from 20 while they're tapped out, which is an important deal. I'm assuming I'm supposed to Fateful Absence this. I assume that they're going to want to do something to keep the Narset dying here. Maybe not. Okay. Works for me. Okay. Well, they just kill the Narset normally then. Okay. Well, I don't dislike Discontinuity, but I would like Teferi to resolve. Cool. They did not have main deck Mystical Dispute. That's not horribly surprising.
Let's skip to the good part.
Land drop means I get to Discontinuity, but win. Before they draw for the turn, probably? Probably. You're going to try to Unholy Heat a Teferi here, opponent, when you know about the Archmage's Charm. No? In that case, I think I'm just supposed to Discontinuity on their upkeep. I didn't have Archmage's Charm up at the end of my turn before untapping with Teferi, so I think this means they just don't have that. So they do get to crack the clue. That's fair. Okay. But successfully works out. I don't know if that was actually correct of me to do, but felt good. Shark Typhoon feels like it's probably pretty hard castable here. If it gets countered... I mean, if they had a counterspell, they would have countered the Discontinuity. I don't think they would counter the Shark Typhoon. And I feel like it's pretty hard to lose against Phoenix with a Shark Typhoon in play, considering that the contents of the rest of our hand are all only cards that are excellent. Just looking for some reasonable hate for the enchantments deck. I think that that's just cheap instant removal. Because, I mean, I don't know that there's a better card against that deck than a Braid, but my guess would be more instant removal like a Braid. They really rely on their 2-mana creatures, and if you just keep killing their 2-mana creatures effectively, I don't think they do a ton. I should have paid more attention to what they're doing. Is this flashbacked? Have they cast something else? Did this expressive iteration happen this turn? I should mention, I'm feeling real sleepy today, so this is going to be an interesting stream. I'm assuming there was expressive iteration into Faithless Looting. Get back 1 Phoenix. Wow. Poor opponent. 1 Phoenix in the top 24 cards of their deck. That's extremely unlucky. You know, at least as far as Phoenix players go. Oh yeah, I'll take a Farewell. And a Lotus Field. Oh, we're done? Okay. I wanted to exile all the graveyards, though, opponent. I finally got to do my fun thing with Farewell. The problem with the Braid is if you don't remove something on the spot, it gets out of range. Yeah. Fateful Absence is the other card I've been debating whether the Jeskai deck just goes big enough, fast enough to not care about the downside of. But the mana base is another concern on that front. But it might be possible to build the mana base such that you just, like, don't play a Braid and then play 4 Fateful Absence. That's true. Snakeskin Veil putting it out of range of a Braid for the remainder of the game is pretty inconvenient. This is through. Okay, so against Phoenix, we don't want Divine Purge, we do want Narset, we want Mystical Dispute, probably. I don't know whether I want Fateful Absence. Probably don't want Commit. Honestly, Farewell is probably too slow. Unsure how much I'm supposed to rely on Discontinuity. I'm definitely supposed to play Aether Gust. Is that it? I don't really want to board in Dovin's Veto against them. I could board in Rest in Peace. Is that good? It's probably worth boarding in Rest in Peace against Phoenix, right? We can probably cut Memory Deluge. Or at least trim a Memory Deluge. What's Farewell for? I'm testing it out as like a solid main deck board wipe. in a lot of different matchups. I think that it has the potential to be very good against Cat Oven decks, because it hits Trail of Crumbs. It's not dead against Phoenix, because it actually exiles their graveyard and their board. I just think that maybe with the amount of mana this deck makes, it just ends up being better on average than Wrath of Gods. Other than the Enchantress matchup, I don't know that there's a ton of like matchups where it's just stellar instant bomb game winning. Other than like, it is extremely good against green-black food. But I think that it is dead a lot less often than Wrath of God, and in some matchups is just much, much better than Wrath of God. That's me interested. I mean, it's not better against, like, Gruul aggro, I suppose, but most every other matchup it feels slightly better against. Yeah, I don't think this is a keep. I guess this is a keep? Huh. I'd be a lot happier with this if it was a 7, to be entirely honest. I guess I ship Shark Typhoon? Would argue it's close to winning on the spot against food. Yeah, it is definitely pretty close. Although I do imagine they can also probably play around it, and they have hand hate spells, so you can't just, like, have a farewell in your opening hand and then dirtle around making it to 6 mana and win the game for free. Adios makes an already annoying deck even more despicable. Yeah, that might not be too far off. But perhaps this deck is just fun. I would hope. Do I want to counter this? I probably ought to counter this. This is the part of the game where we can draw a bunch of cards that are all like Stifles and Strict Proctors, which kind of isn't great. Svaloon. Oh, okay. Well, that's a problem. Can't say I saw that coming. Yeah, like I said, could just keep drawing Strict Proctors, and that's not great. It reads as the opponent having Consider, because Mystical Dispute wouldn't have been castable there. They could also have Unholy Heat, I suppose. Ah, Svaloon, Svaloon, Svaloon. Not good for me. Expressive Iteration's gonna get Aether Gusted. Don't like my opponent having even more cards. Would like them to be slightly slowed down if possible. Opponent, if you want to kill my Strict Proctor, that'd actually be super cool. No. Alright. Well... I'm still gonna have a pretty tough time doing anything against this Svaloon, huh? And the draws aren't helping. I think I have to let the Expressive Iteration resolve here. Well, do I? I don't actually, do I? Because Crackling Drake isn't actually a concern with Strict Proctor in play. How do we handle this? Okay. Okay, draw 2. That's a beginning. Stifle is nothing. Okay. Alright, well, we hold Strict Proctor back so that we can block the Dragon's Rage Channeler, possibly. This is not a particularly exciting display from the Lotus Field deck, is it? Instant creature sorcery, so still not Delirium. Why though? Thanks for the follow. Glad you're enjoying the stream. Good evening, Mean Dean. How goes it? Alright, Faithless Looting means that they can pretty much activate Dragon's Rage Channeler no matter what, but they don't even have to discard a land. I don't really have any outs here, do I? I suppose I could stifle a draw trigger from Svelun. I'm not actually sure there's like anything else that's possible for me to actually want to use this Stifle on anyway. Cool. Alright. Them using Unholy Heat isn't a bad sign, because, well, it implies they have more Unholy Heats, which is a problem. Okay. But 2, that's something at least. So now if I top deck Shark Typhoon, I can make a 4/4 and then do something? No. Then do absolutely nothing. Gotcha. Lost to someone using your Hinata deck today. Just couldn't finish them off before they got 3 turns in a row. Both games with Orzhov. Yeah, I continue to feel like Orzhov's going to be in a really, really tough place going forward. Any of the Hinata decks kind of outscale Orzhov, and I don't really know how you build Orzhov to try to account for that. Not totally sure it's super possible. Do we just run this back? Probably. I mean, we found 0 card advantage, which is kind of the tough part with this list. It doesn't really function if you don't. Okay, well. I feel like I'm probably going to wind up getting Narset countered, but maybe I get lucky enough that doesn't matter. Do I cycle Irrigated Farmland on turn 2? The Esper decks beat up Orzhov too, so they probably just add the blue and keep doing mid-range things. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the folks who want to play white-black end up playing Esper instead. Malevolent Hermit isn't terrible. It helps. It gives the Orzhov deck the ability to actually be aggressive in the matchups where it needs to be aggressive with a little bit of a disruption. Even added 3 check for traps and 3 go blanks. Yeah, check for traps I don't think is actually good against the Hinata deck at all. Because the Hinata deck, every part of the Hinata deck is just so much card advantage that if you make the game go longer instead of killing your opponent, then the Hinata deck's just kind of actively happy about that. I think I'm cycling this farmland, trying to find a Lotus Field. Like, the Hinata deck is happy to discard any card in its hand at all in order to... what's the word I'm looking for? Just in order to buy time to draw more cards and make land drops. And you doing something that isn't killing them and isn't actually card advantage for you, just, yeah, the Hinata deck's totally fine with that. I do actually think that matchup is probably one where you can afford to board in a second copy of Legion Angel, if you're the kind of deck that has 3 in the sideboard and 1 in the main. Just to have more threats. I'm generally of the opinion that if you can't play counterspells against Hinata, you are best off playing Mass Hand Disruption, like Go Blank, as in, like, 2-for-1 hand disruption that also inconveniences Galvanic Iteration, or you should just board into stuff that makes you more aggressive. Opus is brutal, and it's hard to, like, beat. So in a way, it feels like you're supposed to be kind of just have to play Narset and over no Mystical Dispute here, right? Yeah. I do have to do that, but I do want to hope that they don't have it. But they do have it. But yeah, the temptation to try to board into an answer to Opus is understandable, but flawed when you end up with the scenario where boarding into answers to Opus just make you weaker to the entire rest of the deck, and still kind of put you on the plan of hope they don't top deck Opus regardless. Yeah, I'm assuming I'm just supposed to Discontinuity this Lotus Field here. Opponent playing with so much card advantage. Don't love to see it. How you doing on cards over there, opponent? Instant, 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 sorcery, instant. No creature, no land. Consider. Okay. Am I to assume that that is because they are trying to find land drops? I don't believe they've missed one yet. Alright, land drop to the graveyard. So they're missing creature or planeswalker. Pithing Needle. Okay, so that name's Teferi, I guess? That doesn't seem like a terribly useful use of their time, but okay. Well, I could also immediately top deck Teferi, which means if I Fateful Absence that Pithing Needle, we give him Delirium. That's not terribly fun, is it? Makes Unholy Heat actively kill Teferi. That's kind of a bummer. Not gonna lie. We can't Absence? Oh, this isn't as good a card as I thought. I thought this hit artifacts and enchantments. Yuck. Okay, well. Alright, that makes Pithing Needle better. I still don't know if it makes it good, but it does make it better. Alright, so we take Narset. Do I bother with Stifle? I don't believe that I bother with Stifle. Alright, let's play Narset. Am I supposed to downtick this?
No one is more prepared than me.
I think so. I think it's pretty easy for them to just wind up killing the Narset with the Unholy Heat. I feel like it'd be easy for them to activate Delirium this turn. What do we get with Narset? These are a lot of good options. Probably Narset, I'm thinking. Is there a better option than check for traps? In Orzhov? So 4 go blanks is better than... The 4th go blank is better than the first check for traps. And beyond that, I kind of feel like just playing creatures that lower your opponent's life total is the best thing you can do, like more so than check for traps. Yeah, we are very set up to not get shut off by our opponent's Narset, huh? Okay, so opponent has an Unholy Heat up. Okay.
If you wish to surrender now,
I'm probably supposed to play a land drop here before doing anything with Narset. Because I don't want my opponent to Unholy Heat my Narset, and then I end up wanting to Discontinuity in response.
meditate and prepare.
I guess I wouldn't want to, because I'd be fizzling my Narset trigger anyway. So I wouldn't have bothered Discontinuitying there, would I? So I could have waited on the land drop, but I don't think that the context of the card I was going to get really was likely to change what land drop I went with. Unless it was Archmage's Charm, I suppose. Wow, okay. Opponent doesn't bother Unholy Heating Narset. Little surprising. I guess you're just going to hold on to it. I could cycle Fateful Absence here by hitting my own Narset. Do I want to do that? Probably not. I don't really want to give my opponent a draw either, though. I'm probably supposed to remove their creatures, though.
You are a mighty warrior.
Yeah, I could see Skyclave Shade being fine. I also suspect that the 3-drop with Ward discard a card could be entirely reasonable. I think that card's kind of actively pretty solid. How are the Lotuses tonight? We're just finding out. This is the first one for the evening. I really don't want to let my opponent draw 2 here. 4, 6, 7. I don't think I bother doing anything here. Don't think I jam Teferi, because now that I think about it, I don't have any answers to Pithing Needle. Okay, so I could counter the Brazen Borrower. Do I want to do that? Probably. I wonder if I'm actually supposed to keep in Farewell against this deck. I kind of thought it was just a decent main board that I could sideboard out, but Pithing Needle is making me reconsider that. Yeah, I'm used to Pithing Needle in the context of matchups where I play more answers to it. Didn't occur to me that Fateful Absence not hitting Pithing Needle means that I really don't have a lot of anything I can do about it. I wish I had cycled this Fateful Absence on my own Narset earlier. But, ugh, yuck. Okay. Well, we know they're redrawing that, which they can't play here. Definitely kill the Crackling Drake. Definitely now kill the Dragon's Rage Channeler, because there's already a creature in the graveyard anyway. Draw an untap land? No. Memory Deluge, which still isn't actually... Or Archmage's Charm, which isn't enough to resolve the Memory Deluge through a Mystical Dispute, which is sort of what I suspect I'm supposed to be playing around here. Oh, can I steal a clue token with Archmage's Charm? Huh, I could. Interesting. So if I go to draw cards with Archmage's Charm, I'm only drawing one, which isn't very good. I imagine I'm just supposed to try to deny them threats for long enough for me to either top deck a Shark Typhoon or an untapped land for Memory Deluge. I do like my opponent drawing cards. I mean, I don't. That sentence is a lie, but I like my opponent not doing something aggressive with their turn. Okay. We get to shock our untapped land. Oh, alright. The opponent just allows me to not have to play around Mystical Dispute. That's lovely. We look at 7 cards, and luckily only 2 of them are even slightly decent. So, that's reassuring at the very least. If I hit an untapped land, I can play Shark Typhoon into Teferi to make a 5/5. 5/5 dies to Unholy Heat. I wonder if that's better for me than trying to just make a huge shark. Well, if the opponent only fires up Den, plays a tap land, okay. Well, Problem is Lotus Field doesn't let us cast Teferi. And I'm not super in love with the idea of what happens if they just fire up Den again and swing for 5, putting me to 5 while holding up Unholy Heat. Still, I kind of think I have to hardcast this here. I would like them to not Mystical Dispute this, because I kind of need... Oh, no, wait, they could totally Mystical Dispute that. I'm allowed to just pay for Mystical Dispute normally. Right. Okay. Well, hopefully they try to play some kind of creature that I can Mystical Dispute, instead of just firing up Den, attacking, and passing. Hopefully. Was there a point to playing Lotus Field there? Give me 1 more mana next turn. It does still function as a normal land drop. I don't know that there was a point in holding it. If I draw a Stifle or a Tail's End, I'm probably going to wind up stifling a trigger to, like, activate a creature land or something, or make a goblin. I'm unlikely to care about stifling the Lotus Field trigger at this point, because I have enough mana. Okay. Don't hate that. We get to play Teferi, which functions as a 5/5 currently. Fortunately, I can't do much else with it, but the other Teferi also functions as a 5/5. Unholy Heat kills 1 of our 5/5s, and I need them to not have a second Unholy Heat. Yeah. Okay. Nope. Huh. Okay, so did basically single-handedly die to Pithing Needle there, which is rough. I don't know whether Farewell would have been useful there. We certainly spent a lot of time without having found that Shark Typhoon. It feels like if we'd gotten the Shark Typhoon down a turn earlier, we would have been alright-ish. I wonder if there's an argument for just playing Farewell in a Jeskai shell as like a one-of. I assume I'm supposed to keep a 3-lander that has a Lotus Field and just hope to top deck a Stifle effect. Socks is an extremely relaxed cat. This is completely true. He's quite a good fella. Alright. Removal, removal, removal. No Lotus Field acceleration found yet. Alright, Sprite Dragon, you gonna do anything? No? Okay. I think I bother Fateful Absencing here in the hope that I top deck some other way to use my mana. Technically not doing it until my opponent's next turn is better if I draw just stone nothing, but really now, what are the odds of that? Somewhat decent. Somewhat decent, to be honest. Okay. Opponents are willing to use their cheap cards already. Ooh, careful of the microphone, kitty cat. Or maybe having all of chat get thwapped by a tail is just kind of equalizing the experience. If it's going to happen to me the entire time, why not y'all too? Dragon's Rage Channeler, alright. Still nothing, not ideal, but at least we get to Memory Deluge now. Maybe that's, like, I can pretend meaningful. Kind of feels like if this deck doesn't draw a way to deal with Lotus Field, then it isn't really doing anything terribly exciting. Well, my opponent's not doing anything exciting either. That's, like, kind of good. Alright, well, I definitely don't need Memory Deluge, but I need none of these other cards either. More Shark Typhoons, though. I do like that. I do like that. Now, part of the trouble here is that Shark Typhoon for 3 just to trade with the Dragon's Rage Channeler isn't super exciting, but I suppose the opponent's probably going to Unholy Heat that Shark Typhoon token regardless, so maybe it's not really relevant. Do you think Okiba Reckoner Raid is strong enough for Constructed? Which one is that? Okiba Reckoner Raid. Yes, I think that is actually one of the stronger appeals to being in a black aggressive vehicles deck. The question I have is whether a black aggressive vehicles deck has enough other support to get there. Dragon's Rage Channeler puts Phoenix in the yard. That hurts. Hopefully not too many more. Okay, no more. And they put an Unholy Heat in the yard. That's kind of cool. I am into the idea of attempting to trade with this Dragon's Rage Channeler. That is card advantage for me, but I imagine, yes, Unholy Heat happens. Stifle, okay. My life total's not totally excellent here. What do you have to say about Narset, opponent? Anything at all? Okay. How about if I down tick Narset? Discontinuity, huh? Discontinuity's tempting. Shark Typhoon's probably better, though? Just played a game where I'm confident I made 0 mistakes, my opponent arrested me, then I foretold Behold the Multiverse, and the opponent scooped. You can still make mistakes pretty easily there, because you still had to decide land sequencing, and you still had to make mulliganing decisions, and if it wasn't game 1, then you also had to make sideboarding decisions. And also the cards you played in your deck were decisions too. So like, it's very easy to hit turn 0 of a game and already have made mistakes. But probably a lot less mistakes than normal. Alright, well, let's give this an attempt. I would like to not die here, but I understand that's not horribly likely. We do at least have a Narset in play, which makes it kind of challenging for our opponent to, like, cast a bunch of draw spells here. We could just hardcast Arclight, that's true, that's true. No respect to my 1-mana unsummons, huh, opponent? I see. Okay. I'm 1 mana short of hardcasting Shark Typhoon and then doing anything meaningful with it, unfortunately. Could try to play Teferi, and then I guess untap 2 Lotus Fields. Come to think of it, that actually sounds sort of good. So then I can cycle a big Shark Typhoon. You don't have negate, right, opponent? Okay, we might be able to make this work. Well, opponent, how capable are you of killing us? Now that Narset isn't in play. I can make a 7/7 Shark, which is oh so conveniently not dead to Unholy Heat. I do like that quite a bit. Yeah, you do have a Den of the Bugbear, opponent. That would be annoying. Yes. Okay. Alright, how are you attacking then? Everything at face, huh? 2 Unholy Heat's gone. I suppose I have to be concerned about the possibility that my opponent has a Petty Theft. So do I want to go to 2? Trouble is, I'm not entirely sure how I win this game. I think I should play around Petty Theft, but I don't know how I win the game even if I do play around Petty Theft here. Because I'm playing around Petty Theft by representing the other Shark Typhoon currently. Oh, okay. Well, it could have 1 Flame Blessed Bolt, I suppose. Fair enough, that does blow me out. Or I could top deck Farewell. Okay. Well, this rather is literally exactly why we put that card in the deck, huh? Okay, okay, okay. That's... You know what? I'm going to go with, this is a pretty good start for Farewell looking like a good Magic card. We're gonna have 6 mana. Alright, then we'll make it 7, and have an Narset in play. Pillar of Flames being able to hit face, also concerning. This is accurate. We will take Commit, because Commit to Memory sounds like a lot of fun. I feel like that game swung rather extremely quickly there, to be honest. So we have Commit and Archmage's Charm up. Okay, well, I'm pretty comfortable Memory Deluging here at the end of turn. Take an untapped land and Irrigated Farmland, I guess? Is there a way in which I'm concerned? I guess I shouldn't cycle Farmland because I'd like to be able to... No. He only does 2 damage right now because we just emptied all the graveyards. Right, I forgot about that part, so I could have kept my Teferi alive through an Unholy Heat. I can't really memory here very easily. Alright, well, let's float a bunch of blue mana. I guess I could also activate Castle Ardenvale, but I'd rather just have floating mana to deny my opponent the ability to do anything on the end of my turn. And then just, like, discard an Irrigated Farmland to hand size. You want to do something in all this open mana, opponent? Returns Narset to hand. And me without a way to stifle that, huh? I guess I could try to find a way to stifle it. Nope. We do find a Farewell, though. And I guess an Irrigated Farmland? Then do we find a Stifle? Nope. Okay. Very well. Narset back in our hand. You got it, opponent. I'm gonna discard some cards. What are we gonna discard here? Probably Farewell? I guess I can just discard the Teferi. I kind of want to cycle a Farmland, although I can't actually say why. And if I can't say why I want to cycle this, it's probably just habit, and not actually a concrete reason. Faithless Looting, sure. Suppose I could have committed that just to have commit used on something and chilling in the graveyard. Crackling Drake discarded. Why not discard the commit instead? Yeah, maybe that's justifiable. I was kind of operating under the assumption that, like, I do still want the counterspell. Okay, that resolves. I can just commit that at the end of turn. I do have 2 Archmage's Charms, but what if I need 3? You never know. Okay, I would like to commit that Stormwing Entity now. Oh, hey, look, opponent, you drew a Stormwing Entity. How surprising. Alright, well, let's go ahead and cycle this Farmland. On the off chance that it matters for reasons I'm not yet aware of. Probably, like, should have technically activated Castle Ardenvale instead, because that actually does something, but, you know.
Keep up the pace.
As tempting as it is to jam the memory here, I'm probably not supposed to jam the memory here. Yeah, that's rather disappointing.
Keep an open mind.
Because I'm currently representing Teferi Ultimate, and 3 counter spells is probably better than whatever I get off memory. Yeah, that's true. We can memory after the Teferi Ultimate. That's technically better, right? Okay. Good talk, opponent. Narsets, Disputes, Gusts in. Commit out. Divine Purges out. And then I guess last time we cut the Farewells, but I don't actually know if I liked that. So what if we only cut like 2? 1 Farewell? Cut a Fateful Absence. And then I kind of feel like I'm probably supposed to cut a Tail's End. I mean, I guess it actually is a counterspell to Svelun, which isn't useless. I could play fewer than 4 Aether Gusts, but why would I do that? I could just cut more Fateful Absences instead. Who wants to let your opponent draw cards anyway? I wonder if I'm supposed to cut, like, all Fateful Absences anytime where I'm not keeping in the... Oop, bye, kitty. Okay. Stifle Lotus Field feels like I'm probably supposed to keep it. Anytime where I'm not keeping in the Divine Purges, I wonder if I'm just supposed to, like, get rid of all of my... whatchamacallums? Well, Stifle, Mystical Dispute, Lotus Field feels like a combo. Okay, and I'm not going to just jam the Lotus Field as fast as I can into possible Mystical Dispute mana. Am I supposed to Aether Gust this Dragon's Rage Channeler after they draw? After they draw with Consider. I guess then they draw with, for the turn, the Dragon's Rage Channeler, and I don't really want that. Because then they just play the Dragon's Rage Channeler and then all their other cards. Okay, I don't think I'm supposed to Aether Gust Faithless Looting. That is technically card disadvantage for the opponent. Oh, I guess I didn't even bring in Rest in Peace, did I? Maybe I'm supposed to do that? Unclear. I'm willing to let Dragon's Rage hit me for 1 and then just Aether Gust at the end of turn. Opponent's only got 1 blue mana, so I'm guaranteed to have my Stifle on the Lotus Field resolve here. Boop. Opponent attempts to counter the Stifle. But we got the Mystical Dispute for it. Alright. Mana advantage obtained! 6 mana and 2 Archmage's Charms. Active. I do like Rest in Peace against Phoenix. I should probably board it in. But the fact that I feel like I forgot says to me, I wonder if it's worth having. If I only think it's kind of eh. I mean, it's better than kind of eh, but, like, I don't know. I'm not sure what the opportunity cost of using that slot for Rest in Peace instead of something else is. So, probably not, like, correct to not play it. What do we got? Instant, 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 instant. Land, land, sorcery. Still no Delirium unless they discard a creature, which... Wait. Oh, no, they got rid of because that was from the graveyard, so still no sorcery. Gotcha. Is it time to steal the Dragon's Rage Channeler? Maybe. I actually feel like it's probably time to start drawing cards. Interesting. I think that I'm supposed to go ahead and Aether Gust the Dragon's Rage Channeler here to make way for the Narset. The opponent could have Mystical Dispute up here, but that's why we're using the Aether Gust. Specifically so that they do not get to Mystical Dispute our Narset.
I have practiced against men hone your prowess.
Oh, hey. Teferi sounds fun. Am I supposed to steal Dragon's Rage Channeler? I'm probably supposed to steal Dragon's Rage Channeler while they're tapped out. Alright, opponent, your life seems sort of difficult. Opponent's inclined to agree. Sweet. It's very hard for me to rank exactly how much Lotus Field Acceleration won us that game, but I guess I did get to draw 2 and then Aether Gust, and then I played Narset plus a removal spell, and all of that seems like having 2 extra mana per turn made that possible. So probably good for the Lotus Field. Okay, we're immediately going to press the record button and walk away. You want to have it yet? Yeah. Cool. All right. That's content. We will take the play. We will keep the Strict Proctor Lotus Field hand. Play Deserted Beach on turn 1. Am I supposed to play Strict Proctor on turn 2 in this spot? I assume I am, specifically because I have the backup Discontinuity for the Lotus Field, so it doesn't matter a ton if my Strict Proctor gets, you know, countered, removed. Okay, so resolve, decline, got it. Right. Okay. I'm probably not blocking this Adanto, but I guess we'll see. I mean, I have Divine Purge, so maybe I want to block it just to gain 3 life? Is that relevant? I mean, my entire hand is nothing but board wipes, so I do kind of have to get use out of this Strict Proctor sooner or later. Yeah, our hand seems pretty decent against mono white, huh? I guess we do need a 6th land for this to really take off. But I'm going to go with Farewell, a significantly better board wipe against Adanto Vanguard than many other options. Esper Sentinel. Alright, disappointing. Elite Spellbinder takes Divine Purge. Okay, okay. This is a very high-level way to troll your opponent with Farewell. Because, see, it used to be the case that, oh, Farewell was going to change the metagame of what card do you name when you're about to win the game. Well, you name Farewell. On any card where you have to choose a name and it doesn't really matter, like Pithing Needle. But you could also just reveal your hand to your opponent when they're playing aggro and reveal that, actually, I just have 3 copies of Farewell. Admittedly, Ranger Captain of Eos actually is pretty annoying here. I'm not terribly excited about the fact that our opponent can just play multiple Esper Sentinels. I'm not actually winning this game in any meaningful way right now. I wonder if I'm just supposed to fire off Farewell there. Because I kind of feel like I'm losing on a card advantage front right now. But Adanto Vanguard doesn't feel like it was the right card for them to play, so I'll live with that. Okay. Then I imagine I'm supposed to farewell and let them draw a card here. I could Teferi, untap up to 5 lands. If I had one more mana, I could play this Teferi and then Discontinuity, but oh well. Does it benefit me to exile graveyards? I mean, I guess they don't have anything in their graveyard. I don't think I have anything in my graveyard that's relevant, but I might as well pretend I do. Might matter if I come into memory. That's true, and I don't really want to exile the cards in my graveyard at the moment. The next Arena month's open major tournaments are what formats? I don't know, actually. Okay, well, we're gonna hope they can't kill the Teferi here, because I can only pay for one of these Esper Sentinel triggers. We uptick the Teferi. Okay. Narset could be worse. What you got for us, opponent? Elite Spellbinder. What's it taking? Is it taking a Farewell? Because I think I can live if it takes a Farewell. They should probably take Discontinuity, actually. Because I don't think having the Farewell cost more impacts me very much here, but having the Discontinuity cost more actually kind of would. Basically, what format should we be focusing on now that Standard is done? Yeah, I don't know. I should probably figure out the answer to that. Technically, that's kind of like, sort of what my profession is, I guess. Alright, let's go ahead and exile our opponent's board state, because why not? Isn't alchemy? I know the very next one that's like this weekend is draft. I don't know what's after that. I could wait to play this Lotus Field, but like, why? I think I'd rather hold up Discontinuity when my opponent goes to play their next creature. Luminarch Aspirant. Do I care about you? I don't feel like I care enough about you to counter you. Adonto Vanguard I care enough about to counter. It's just, you know, kind of inconvenient to have an indestructible creature. Okay. Opponent agrees that we're done here. Well, gotta say, Farewell felt pretty good there, because Wrath of God probably would have been garbage. I do like to see it. Alright, now what are we doing against mono white aggro? It doesn't feel like I'm in a good spot here, to be entirely honest. I'm going to go with commit doesn't look great. Divine Purge is probably fine. Mono white has so much value that it can do with the Esper Sentinels that I'm a little concerned about Declaration in Stone. But I do clearly need exile-based removal, and it's probably at least better than Fateful Absence a little bit. I can probably trim Narset. Can I trim 2 Narsets? Probably. Play 2 Declaration Stones. Alright. 6 mana board wipe, yeah, there's not a lot of downside to a 6 mana board wipe if you got field on turn 3. And if it hits their indestructible creatures, that's just extra. Alright, this does not seem exciting, but sure, whatever. I'm probably not supposed to keep this. I'm probably supposed to mulligan for, like, Lotus Field or at least a Stifle effect, but I don't know. I feel like If I can't keep hands like this, I probably shouldn't be playing this deck, because at that point I clearly have no clue how to play it. I'm supposed to Fateful Absence and Esper Sentinel? I'm deeply concerned about the amount of card advantage I'm going to be giving the opponent with this kind of a hand. You can totally keep hands with no Lotus Field or Stifle. It's better than just one or two of them most of the time. Okay. One of the two. Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. Archon of Emeria, huh? Okay. I'm not entirely sure how that's good against me, other than it makes Lotus Fields intertapped. Wait, can you not choose to pay 2 life with an Archon of Emeria in play? That doesn't seem correct. Shouldn't I be able to pay the 2 life if I wanted to? Or is that just a graphical reminder and you can click it anyway? Yeah, the next set championship is Split Alchemy and Historic. Oh yeah, Maul doesn't work like that, opponent. That's unfortunate. Which means that I'm probably going to be spending most of my time on... I wonder if I should have actually removed the Esper Sentinel there before it could get them all the Skyclaves attached to it.
Meditate and prepare.
Well, if they do equip it, then I guess I can steal it. You can choose to pay the 2 life. Okay, okay. That is probably the best way they could have done it then. So they know about Archmage's Charm, but they equip the Esper Sentinel anyway. So I could chump block Strict Proctor onto Esper Sentinel here, which saves the Narset, which means when I Archmage's Charm to steal the Esper Sentinel, they don't draw a card. I feel like I'm willing to let my opponent draw a card if it means keeping Strict Proctor in play.
I shall miss your company.
Missing a land drop, eh? Okay. Well, at this point, I do have a lot of cards. So I'm missing land drops, but I've got stuff to do at least. And some of these cards are even removal spells. Put in the Mana Tithe. Yeah, the shock definitely makes it seem like that's a possibility, huh? You want to give your Esper Sentinel indestructible, opponent? Okay. Oh, wait, this isn't the good Gideon. This is the can't lose the game Gideon? For some reason? Okay. Why isn't that Gideon Blackblade, opponent? Well, I would like to gain control of the Esper Sentinel, please. So I can Declaration in Stone the Archon of Emeria, and then Fateful Absence, whatever the next thing they try to equip the Maul to is. Works better if I have an untapped land to pay for a possible Mana Tithe. Nope, okay. We're done here? I guess we're done here. The opponent could play Pact of Negation, but you have to zero Gideon in order to not die on your upkeep. You can't start with upticking Gideon, because you don't get priority to activate that zero ability so that you can't lose the game earlier than that. But, alright, I guess that sort of functioned. I guess. You'll take the play. We'll mulligan the hand that doesn't really have anything to do. I guess I will keep this hand. Oh, what are we throwing away here? I mean, we're definitely keeping Discontinuity because we are hoping we top deck Lotus Field. I guess I'm probably supposed to get rid of Shark Typhoon. Keeping Commit seems wrong. Keeping Commit seems real bad. Because I probably want to cycle Shark Typhoon on 2, don't I? It's tempting to keep the Commit when I've got 2 Narsets, but that's just not how this hand is currently looking to shape up. Okay, Archmage's Charm isn't awful. Opponent appears to be on Gruul aggro. No, Gruul Shaman Tribal. Not excellent. Okay, Divine Purge, but without the mana to use it. Yeah, I think I just have to hold up Archmage's Charm here. Howdy, Soul. It goes pretty good. Yeah, Burning Tree Emissary, not an acceptable card for the opponent to play currently. Lotus Field, a pretty acceptable card for me to top deck. Alright, opponent, what else do you got? What other silly nonsense cards are you prepared to Harmonic Prodigy? Do you have more Burning Tree Emissaries? Coco, okay. Wow, that actually could have been way worse. Like, it doesn't really matter, other than they get to, like, loot 4, which is pretty good, but other than that, that could have been worse. I get to Divine Purge plus Narset, which seems good. Am I supposed to Narset and then Divine Purge to potentially hide more information from my opponent if I hit another Divine Purge? They won't know I have the second? I think that that's actually correct. Nope, we just did Archmage's Charm. That's fine too. Okay. Bye-bye board state. This is going a lot better than I was expecting it to thus far. Frostbite. Oh, that's actually kind of a cute addition. Okay, well, I would love to Fateful Absence that Harmonic Prodigy, but let's start with the Narset and see what else happens. Ooh, Teferi sounds fun. Yeah, no Harmonic Prodigy. I guess I could remove it after they cast something to deny them information. They're not likely to have a lot of counterspells. Or, well, I guess Veil of Summer would be more likely. And I could have Archmage's Charmed this instead. It probably was a mistake. Ooh. Farewell also blows up clue tokens. That's adorable. I love it.
Keep an open mind.
Yeah, let's take Memory Deluge. Let's play our Teferi. Let's uptick our Teferi. Have our Fateful Absence and our Archmage's Charm. I can probably just let my opponent kill Narset here and not be too upset. Veil only hits... Veil of Summer only hits blue or black. But that's banned in Historic, because it's like the most OP card ever printed. Snakeskin Veil is the one that they would likely have here. Okay, Burning Tree Emissary, sure. Elvish Visionary, sure. And then I'm assuming they play Rage Forger? Yes. Oh, right, that also costs less. Because of a Narcomancer. Inconvenient. Okay. Suppose I should have Fateful Abstanced the Anarchomancer in response to the Elvish Visionary, actually. But probably not going to matter a ton. I don't think I need Archmage's Charm here, because as long as I Fateful Absence the Anarchomancer, they can't kill the Teferi. Or can they? How come that's castable with 2 mana? I thought it cost 3. Am I crazy? Oh, it's another one from hand. It's not the one that costs more. Got it. They just have a billion Rage Forgers. I see. Okay, so that makes this 3 and pings for 2 on an attack. I guess I actually do have to counter that. Otherwise my Teferi dies, and I don't really want my Teferi to die. Oh, any target player or planeswalker. Wow, Rage Forger. Use a spicy magic card. Alright, let's find Lotus Field off the Teferi uptick. Thank you, deck. You're extremely wonderful and kind. Let's go ahead and blow up everything. Do I want graveyards gone? Probably not. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just going to click all the buttons. Alright, and we play the Lotus Field. And we sack some lands. And we untap up to 7 mana so that I can Memory Deluge and Archmage's Charm. Allosaurus Shepherd. Green spells you control can't be countered. Luckily for me, all of my opponent's cards are currently red. I would love to have a Shark Typhoon and a Memory Deluge. More farewells. I'm going to have to make sure not to exile enchantments once I actually have Shark Typhoon in play. That'll be important to remember. Alright, cast Shark Typhoon. I imagine this is probably the part where the opponent concedes. They hang on longer than I'm expecting. Kudos to them. Rage Forger. Are you a shaman? Wow, you are. Cute. Okay. Yeah, it's fine. Okay. So the part of the game where I cast this Memory Deluge and make a 7/7 and the opponent realizes there's a Shark Typhoon in play. Wait. Oh, that's not how this works. I see. Okay. Well, 4/4 is good enough. The part where the opponent remembers that I am allowed to use the Shark Typhoon that's in play is indeed the part where they concede. Okay, well, how about we board in 4 Aether Gusts? That seems like a good start. And probably Divine Purge. It seems like a fine continuation. And we cut the commits, and is Narset good or bad against them? They do sort of draw cards, but not really. And I guess I can just cut the Narsets entirely and then, like, cut the Memory Deluge, maybe? I can probably trim a Farewell against them. Okay, now, here's the next question, then. Our opponent 1,000,000% has to have a plan for Strict Proctor, because it just totally shuts off their deck. What do they board into to answer Strict Proctor? Is it just Frostbite? Is that why they're going so hard on the snow? Or do they end up with a better answer that I'm supposed to board around? Fry's possible. I assume they want 1 mana answers to Strict Proctor. But I don't know how many of those exist. I guess if this deck is popular enough, that might be a justification to play a 3rd Strict Proctor over a Tail's End. Kind of assume that having Tail's End for the mirror matchup is a lot better than having Strict Proctor, though. Alright, well, 2 Aether Gusts. That's a start. Aether Gust actually does something against Allosaurus Shepherd, so that's cool. Play Lotus a fair bit and usually scoop to the Proctor, but also don't see Shaman much. Maybe for this reason? Yeah. I could see this deck just not having a good plan against Strict Proctor. Especially because if you're playing dual lands, you do not have an easy time having 3 snow permanents anywhere near in time for that to matter against Strict Proctor. Twin Scroll Shaman. That's a magic card. Okay. I kind of feel like I'm not supposed to care about that. I feel like I'm just supposed to hold on with my Aether Gusts. That's like a 3-drop opponent. I don't know about that. Oh no, Collected Company's uncounterable. Whatever will I do? I'm assuming they probably put it on top of the deck, to be honest with you. I'd like to draw more Aether Gusts. For the time being, we're just going to get punched by 3 damage a turn. This does in fact work, opponent. You do have to choose somewhere for the Aether Gust to put the Collected Company. Because Aether Gust is not a counterspell. Ooh. Archmage's Charm is fun. Alright. So if I draw a removal spell for the Allosaurus Shepherd, then I could counter the Collected Company next turn. So if we draw an Aether Gust, that would be stellar. Cool. Somehow we actually succeeded at that. Radical. Alright, opponent, you can draw that Collected Company again. Main phase? Yeah, because they actually have a lot of effects that buff their creatures, and a lot of creatures that they can Collected Company into with haste. Farewell has actually been very impressive. Like, more so than I was expecting, and I was kind of expecting it to be decent. I don't know if Blue-White Lotus Field is good, but I am becoming very confident that Farewell is good in Blue-White Lotus Field. Okay. Teferi, do you think we downtick on Twin Scroll Shaman or uptick? I'm gonna go with uptick. I want to draw cards. Why would I not want to draw cards? Probably should have, like, waited to see if I drew a Lotus Field. Wouldn't do much, but it would represent something here. Okay. So this does not kill the Teferi, but it does hurt the Teferi a lot next turn. So I can animate Hall of Storm Giants to block Twin Scroll Shaman to at least inconvenience my opponent here. Or I could Memory Deluge instead. If I was going to Memory Deluge, I should have done it before playing the land drop, so that was definitely a mistake. Yep. Defo a mistake. Okay, we get to take Teferi and Irrigated Farmland. So our opponent likely kills Teferi here. I imagine that I am supposed to stifle a Seasoned Pyromancer trigger. It does not sound exciting to have my opponent resolve. Never really understood how the Lotus Field versions were considered the best versions. So many cards like Stifle are just mediocre when not drawn to Lotus Field, or when the deck doesn't draw Lotus Field at all, or multiple Lotus Fields are drawn. Yeah, multiple Lotus Fields feel like you have more answers to, but it does feel like there is an inconsistency to the deck that I'm not totally certain I'm convinced is justified in terms of payoff. Ooh, alright, well, let's just get rid of that Phoenix of Ash then. But Farewell does feel like something that might be good enough that it's worth the inconsistency of. Maybe. Alright, I can play Strict Proctor to block. And then actually animate Hall of the Storm Giants here. Yeah, Strict Proctor and Discontinuity aren't useless. I mean, Tail's End and Stifle aren't totally useless either. Ironically, I actually think this deck probably is better in Modern, where you can just go up to 4 Stifles and really make people miserable. Yeah, you know what, opponent? You are allowed to kill my Teferi. That's fair. I'm gonna get rid of that Allosaurus Shepherd, because it'd be annoying. I don't really want my life total going down, and I would like counterspells to be able to do things. Divine Purge. Okay. Well, I could do that here. Do I want to? Probably I want to. Ooh, Shark Typhoon's cool. Okay. Well, we're going to Divine Purge then and hold up Tail's End. Feels like this is kind of tricky for our opponent to get out of. They could just top deck Collected Company. Nope, just Elvish Visionary. Alright. Tail's End. Absolutely not. I am allowed to Tail's End that opponent. That's a legal choice that I can make. Filling your deck with cards that are not totally useless is funny to me. Just replace those with cards that are actually good. I mean, 3 not totally useless cards that add up to be extremely good can be better than just good cards sometimes. Part of the reason Magic's interesting is that that equilibrium shifts back and forth over which is better to do at any given time. Sort of. I hope. I'd be disappointed if there was always one correct answer to it, I suppose. Do I just Discontinuity to make a 6/6 here? I'm probably just supposed to play a Strict Proctor tapped, and then cycle Shark Typhoon for 4 to block the Visionary. Which is kind of boring, but probably correct. Botelho. But are you just giving me a land? Right now? Oh, right. Botelho sucks. I keep forgetting it can get any land and not just basics. Wow. Okay, I can actually get rid of a bunch of these islands then. Anyway, we're gonna grab an island. Do I go down to 5 just to make a 6/6? Nah. I do think that I play Discontinuity on my opponent's upkeep, though. That's almost like getting to untap Strict Proctor for free.
Keep up the pace.
Yeah, lands with basic land types. EC's correct. I need to play Shark Typhoon. Lotus Field's a good draw. Oh, I don't even have to sack lands. I love it. Strict Proctor actually has a reason to be in my deck that I forgot about. So we get to Memory Deluge and make a 4/4. Rage Forger. Okay. You want to pay for that, opponent? Okay. So Elvish Visionary. Uh-huh. You attack and deal 1 damage to Teferi? Nope. Deal 1 damage to me. Okay. Well, I'm going to make a 4/4. Is this the point at which we concede again? Go to Visionary. Sure. Divine Purge, get rid of Rage Forger. Do I want to do that? I don't think I really want to. What I really want to do is Ultimate a Teferi. Could clear the board, I guess. Do I want to do that? Probably not. We'll make more sharks. I am nothing if not a man of the people. Alright, opponent. What you got for me? Coco? No. I think I might have lethal. Unfortunately, I think the opponent's going to concede before I can kill them. That's a shame. That's true. Metagame challenges do give better moolah rewards. I probably ought to actually pay attention to those when they're around. Yeah, drafting, or if you're good at drafting, is definitely the best way to successfully build a collection. You can't hand-hate my answers to Lotus Field, opponent, if I don't have them in hand. It'll never stop being amusing to me that people think Thoughtseize is a playable card. It's like they've never met anybody who can just top deck the card they need. And then Thoughtseize is like, oh. Like, what are you going to do if you just Thoughtseize me again here, opponent, and then I draw 2 cards and one of them is the Stifle? What then? I actually have no clue what the opponent's playing, unless it's the old blue-black Leer list that just is playing nerfed Leer? Is that loud? You could theoretically have a complete collection for free if you were good enough at draft, but, like, it's extremely difficult to be good enough at draft for that to be a thing that is possible with, like, out having a huge amount of experience in Magic already. So it's definitely not, like, advice that works for new players. Okay. Are we just having a draw go war opponent? You gonna Archmage's Charm me? Or Memory Deluge, actually, is probably what you're gonna do here, huh? No? Okay. Good enough for me. What am I supposed to be worried about out of blue-black? Other than, like, Leer. Because it's not like they can just slam a Teferi. Do I counter that? I probably don't counter that. Am I supposed to Memory Deluge? I was probably supposed to Memory Deluge. Oh, what's going to happen? They test of talents my Memory Deluge in game 1. Although resolving the Memory Deluge to make it easier to resolve the Lotus Field with, like, Stifle would probably be cool. I don't know. What do you think, opponent? Going to counter the Memory Deluge? Yep. But not with the test of talents, eh? Okay. How many 2-mana counter spells are they likely to play? Not a ton. Not a ton is one answer to that. So we get our Narset. Make the opponent's Archmage's Charm is kind of disappointing. Okay, so you're saying I get to 2 for 0 your opponent? What did you exile? Yahenni's Expertise. That doesn't seem like that's good for you. Not that any of these cards are good for me, but I guess I'm more or less satisfied that I didn't have to draw them? It's really unfortunate that Arena offers no trading, no value to cards, while also being nearly impossible to build a collection freely. Well, I think that Arena's relatively generous about letting you build, like, 1 or 2 meta decks for pretty cheap or close to free. It's trying to build, like, a collection that's not possible to do free, and I'm not completely convinced that that's even particularly unreasonable. Like, I don't know. If you want to have everything, I think that that should cost something. I don't know how much, and I don't know exactly what, like, the balance between costing something and like how much should cosmetics fund the game, like what that correct balance actually is. I don't know. Kaido. Okay. Sure. Is that good? Doesn't seem good.
Now this is a juicy secret.
I guess it's a looter that's hard for me to interact with. I guess their, like, plan is to cycle Shark Typhoon for 3. And then play Kaido to start drawing cards, I guess. Alright, well, let's go ahead and kill the Kaido. And we'll kill the Narset. I have a commit, so just hardcasting the Shark Typhoon isn't terribly useful. Let's go ahead and Teferi, uptick, top deck a Stifle? No. Top deck a Glacial Fortress. I don't really need to get more value out of the Lotus Field than this. I feel like I'm supposed to play the Lotus Field here so I can untap it and actually activate Castle Vantress. 5 mana, blow up Teferi. I could cycle Fateful Absence. That's probably not as good as just scrying with Castle Vantress here, huh? I mean, I guess I'd also stop them from gaining 5 life, but that doesn't sound like that's relevant in the slightest. Let's scry, see about finding another Teferi. Don't want either of those cards. Okay. I mean, Archmage's Charm isn't awful, but I feel like I'm just supposed to resolve Memory Deluge while my opponent's tapped out. Narset seems cool, it draws cards. Shark Typhoon also seems cool because it draws cards. Chat, do you think I'm one-dimensional? I kind of worry that I typecast myself into the person who likes drawing cards. I suppose maybe the problem is everyone else who doesn't. Yeah, never mind. That's not my fault at all. Well, opponent, you can definitely draw some cards, and you definitely have a commit. We almost have the same amount of mana, but not actually. We mostly just have the same number of lands, which is a different thing entirely. Do I want to play Narset here, or just make bigger sharks? Probably just play Narset and then see what the opponent does. Is opponent unranked? No, but we disconnected during the finding match, which probably resulted in our opponent appearing to not have a rank. That happens fairly often. I don't know if I've ever noticed it happening. Ooh. Okay, discontinuity is cool. I don't know that I've ever noticed it happening before when my opponent, or when I disconnected while finding the match rather than in the match, but I've definitely seen that before. I mean, I'm probably just supposed to Fateful Absence this shark, so the opponent can't kill my Narset. I was very tempted to steal it with Archmage's Charm, but yeah, I don't know that that matters. Oh, yeah, good point. My avatar is also gone. It's supposed to be Teferi, so definitely the same glitch. Could cycle Shark Typhoon for 2. That seems too small ball. Yep. Opponent can draw a card with a clue. Now, do you think that the opponent cracks the other clue, forgetting how Narset works? Ooh, commit to memory. Could also take more Shark Typhoons, but yeah. Alright, opponent. Your life total is something to be concerned by suddenly. Do they crack the clue? Do they crack the clue? Or do they go after Narset? March of Wretched Sorrows. Well, it's actually kind of not terrible. I do imagine I'm probably just supposed to Discontinuity. Two-mana counterspells are fun. What you got next, opponent? Commit the Narset? Definitely don't want to crack that treasure. Shark Typhoon for 2. Okay. Well, I suppose that I'm probably supposed to steal that then. I do sort of wonder if I'm supposed to commit the token and keep the Archmage's Charm just because they don't know about the Archmage's Charm. Maybe that's correct. Alright, well, let's continue putting pressure on the board. We do actually have all the Storm Giants here, so lowering our opponent's life total contributes a lot to killing them faster. Also, I have 2 more Shark Typhoons, which is cool. Yeah, I kind of feel like I'm on plan, make a 4/4 at the end of our opponent's turn. Memory Deluge, that does draw a lot of cards. Could commit that. Do I want to? Probably. Okay, no card draw, opponent. I don't know if I should let her resolve, because I think my opponent needs multiple cards in hand. Okay. In order to do anything meaningful here. I'm actually, like, super okay with trading this commit for a Memory Deluge, because now they don't actually have anything else to do this turn. Nazis. Sure. One goes down to 7, which leaves them dead to the Hall. Yep, okay. That works. I could cycle the other Shark Typhoon at the end of turn there. And then even if they had like an Archmage's Charm to steal my biggest shark, which was going to be a 4/4, and then they blocked the Hall with it. No, wait, no. If they stole the 4/4, they actually did have the ability to stop lethal. They just would have been at 1 and still in trouble. But yeah, okay. I did my math wrong. They weren't dead, necessarily. Just hard. Okay, so blue-black control, Archmage's Charm, Narset stuffs. Amusingly, Dovin's Veto isn't as important against them, since they don't have any Teferis to counter. Is my opponent still playing Leer with blue-black Thoughtseizes? Didn't look like it. Although I guess March of Wretched Sorrow could actually be cool with Leer, but we saw a lot of their deck and no Leers. Definitely don't want Divine Purge. Farewell, not super great against Planeswalkers, but does answer Shark Typhoons at least. I want Narset, I want Mystical Dispute. Confident in that. Farewell's probably pretty bad, and Dovin's Veto is probably pretty okay. Yeah. That's probably, like, fine. Okay. Well, Strict Proctor doesn't seem good. But at least we're in a position where we can top deck a Lotus Field. And the opponent's going to need multiple hand 8 spells to do anything about that. Okay, not terribly helpful. Okay, how about Strict Proctor, opponent? Does that resolve? Does it resolve? Let it resolve and then kill it, please. No! Do I just jam the Lotus Field to have the 3rd land drop then? I don't think so. I'm going kind of deep here, unfortunately. Oh, hey, cool. The opponent just jams Narset. Love to see it. Yeah, I think I'm supposed to be greedy because I don't think just playing the Lotus Field can let me win in this position. No. Alright, well. Not much I can do. But lose to Mystical Dispute. Yeah, 2 Mystical Disputes hard to handle. Ashiok. Okay, there's a way to try to win the game, I guess. Just play a card that mills 20. Hope you draw it early. Huh. That feels like a bad choice compared to just holding up Archmage's Charm, but... Alright. Three Mystical Disputes. No? No? Okay. What happens if you play Lotus Field on turn 1? You can't sack 2 lands? No, but you sack 1 land, which is the Lotus Field, which makes it not usually a very good play. If you can't sack 2, you do sack 1. Unfortunately, we're definitely missing too many land drops here. Well, this is pretty awkward. I guess I actually should probably Archmage's Charm to draw 2 to try to make this land drop, huh? Oh, no, because there's an Narset in play. Come on, opponent, counter that. Undo my mistake. Undo my mistake, opponent. Oh, they didn't. Okay.
I have reached my limit.
Are you gonna? No, okay. No, I can't emote! No! No, I can't, oops! No. No! Get out of here. No sharks. I didn't have a lot of stellar choices here, but yeah, okay. Thought Distortion makes a lot more sense to put in your deck than an Ashiok. It does leave them with an Archmage's Charm. Ooh, hey, cool. A land drop. The commit being gone is sort of a problem. Maybe. Okay. Well, Fateful Absence is something-ish. Okay. Oh, right. I still can't good game. Marina, why? But yeah, Memory Deluge, definitely the end of that. Shame scoop, please? No. Absolutely not. Percentage chance of winning a game needs to hit like -1% before I'm willing to concede. We change anything in light of any of that? No. As every card in our deck is still bad. Or well, rather, every card in our sideboard is still bad. We will take the play. Yeah, okay, this is reasonable land. For what it's worth, I don't think anything about that game would have changed had I not cast the draw spell. So we still would have gotten hit by the same Thought Distortion on the same turn. I mean, definitely still a mistake, but if my opponent had actually fallen for it and countered the Archmage's Charm, technically we gave the option to the opponent to misplay in a scenario where otherwise the Archmage's Charm wasn't going to do anything at all. So, like, in a manner of speaking, it was strictly optimal to play that Archmage's Charm when I did. Okay, well, I dig my opponent having to cycle Shark Typhoon for 0. That's a good sign for my position in this game. So really the argument should be about how shameless I am. Luckily for me, I'm pretty convinced that I'm not a good Magic player, so I have no ego to protect whatsoever. And that means I just get to take the high EV lines. I'd like to cycle the Shark Typhoon for 2. So I'm kind of disappointed that the Castle Vantress is entering tapped here. Alright, well... Alright, Bunny, you want to Mystical Dispute this Archmage's Charm? Yeah, you did. How did I know? No, the land drop. What a world, what a world. My opponent had to cycle their Shark Typhoon for 0, and they still made more land drops than me. What you gonna do, opponent? Let me draw a land? Let me play a land? Oh, so kind. Alright, hopefully the opponent winds up cycling Shark Typhoon for 3 at the end of my turn after they take the damage, and then I get to Discontinuity the Shark Typhoon to get rid of the Shark and the card draw. Or I can just exile Memory Deluge, that's also cool. Oh, don't have the more Mystical Disputes opponent. That's real rude. Yeah, it's probably worth Dovin's vetoing to deny them the Memory Deluge and exile it. Gives the opponent the option to resolve something on their turn, but since they're blue-black, they don't have quite as many things that, like, truly terrify me. I mean, they definitely can Thought Distortion me, but that just means that playing all my spells was better, not worse. Oh, I guess I actually have Commit, so I could have actually answered a Thought Distortion. Probably should have considered that. Probably was better to have considered that. Never heard someone accent the 10 in Discontinuity before. Oh, yeah, it's like supposed to be Discontinuity, isn't it? I don't know why. I guess because discontinue actually can be a word, technically.
Sorry, let's skip to the good part.
Oh, they can super just use the Bloodchief's Thirst on Teferi. I don't know why I thought that they killed my Shark with Bloodchief's Thirst, because that's definitely not what happened. The Archmage just charmed it. Huh, okay. Well, maybe they fire up Hive of the Eye Tyrant instead. Do I stifle the Fabled Passage trigger? I mean, I still can't actually do anything if I do that. Huh, I'm kind of like losing on every axis right now, huh? That's not great. Alright, you have the Fabled Passage, opponent. Do you mainly use MTG Melee to browse upcoming MTGA tournaments? To be entirely honest, I mostly use Twitter and Twitch chat. And just kind of like randomly hear when they're happening. As opposed to actually having any formal way to find them. The two ways of pronouncing discontinuity are discontinuity and discontinuity. Which, if you think about it as like a product can be discontinued, is where me saying discontinuity comes from, as in like the status of being discontinued. Or you can do it in the idea of like continuity, as in like a timeline. That is being undone. Yeah, I kind of figured that's what was going to happen. I mean, I guess I'd like to cycle this Fateful Absence, probably. You want to test a talents my Fateful Absence? I haven't drawn a card yet, so I would get to draw a card off of this. That it feels pretty much fine for me. The opponent denied me a treasure with their test of talents and tapped out to do it. Which just like means if I draw a hero, I'm super happy now. I mean, I guess if they didn't have anything they could play. I don't think they're supposed to get rid of my removal spell there.
I'll have a better plan next time.
Letting me draw here just seems bad for them. Okay. Land drop first, play around Mystical Dispute. Play Narset. Memory Deluge seems stellar. Okay. They know our hand. I wonder if they're still going to try to fire up Hive to destroy the Narset anyway? Because it is kind of amusing that I get to stifle that Hive trigger. Has Kamigawa made a dent in Historic? Maybe? I don't know. I don't think I want my opponent having a 2-3 here. Feels like about as much use as I'm going to get out of that Stifle. Yeah, opponent denies us the Narset draw. I agree, that makes sense. Ashiok, 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 Ashiok. So Ashiok can downtick on the Narset to stop commit to memory shenanigans. If I commit the Narset, our opponent fires up Hive and punches my Narset. I feel like I'm probably supposed to Memory Deluge, but maybe I'm supposed to commit the opponent's Ashiok before I bother with that. Should have played a land to play around Mystical Dispute first, but they didn't seem to have had it last turn, so I guess it's not that surprising that they have it here. I'm going to deny doing 1 damage to my opponent in this spot, because it forces them to actually waste a bunch of mana firing up the Hive. Opponent?
There are many secrets I don't know, but not from
What? Okay. Well, then what if I block? Opponent? You just have a counterspell then and hope I don't top deck a counterspell? Is that what's going on? Huh. Well, alright. Do I have any other options besides just going for it and getting blown out by an Archmage's Charm here? Would have been a cool turn to top deck Mystical Dispute. Unlikely to be test, but possible. They didn't test the commit, which meant they would have had to top deck at that turn. And it's a lot more likely they top deck the Kaido. Not impossible that they didn't, but... I want to play this Lotus Field first. Probably. Don't want to redraw it if the Memory Deluge... or if the Memory does resolve. Alright, opponent, what you got? You didn't have Dispute or Test last turn. Commit. Really? No, you're supposed to commit the Memory. That gave me a lot more outs. Drawing 7 is way better for me. Opponent knew they were drawing a Planeswalker and they had a Kaido on board. They just had way more resources in that state than I did. This doesn't really put me ahead, but it doesn't meaningfully put me behind compared to the position that I was in. Or they could just top deck Thought Distortion. Yeah, okay. True, true. That was a completely unnecessary risk for them, but it does work. Alright, we're firing up Hall of the Storm Giants. Putting the opponent to 4. Cycling Shark Typhoon for 0 does not produce a blocker. Is there a reason to play another Lotus Field here that's meaningful? I don't think so. Thoughts on the Jeskai combo variant for Standard? So I got a couple of different ideas that I want to try with the Jeskai deck, but I don't know when I'm going to get around to them. I still think the deck is pretty absurd. And I imagine once it's tuned and I have an idea of what the right removal spells are and what the mana base ought to look like, I have not yet seen any deck that looks like it would have a favored matchup against Jeskai Hinata. He's pretty good looking, but definitely still needs work. Okay, well, we gotta fire up Hall. I need to remove my opponent's blockers slowly. So we at least forced chump blocks out of them. Then we can go ahead and cycle Farmland, but I have to do it on their turn. It's weird how potentially winnable this game is. Like, because the only game I've been hyped for on my wish list got a demo today. Ooh. Alright, so what kind of stuff is coming out soon? It could have a demo. game's releasing soon. Alright, I'm gonna guess Atelier Sophie 2. Why is the button not ranked? Same reason we have the Ajani icon. Small glitch. We disconnected while matchmaking. Alright, we take damage. I assume Kaido downticks to make more blockers. Yuppers. Neon White? Time trial shooter game. Oh. Oh. Time trial shooter. So, like, that being different from time travel. Very tempting to remove one of the blockers with Hall here. Hopefully the opponent doesn't have an instant speed removal spell for Hall here. On this amount of mana, technically possible. Jump around and grab cards that let you shoot and dash and jump more. Huh, that sounds familiar. Did that have early access for a while? Oh, should I play Lotus Field pre-combat in case I had a discontinuity or removal spell? Probably should have done that. Okay. Polite them to not force me to, though. Similar to Sium. Okay. That might have been what I've heard of then. Yeah, I was afraid of Shark Typhoon while I was tapped out of discontinuity. That was one of the concerns here. Alright, opponent mills 3 lands, which we're sort of fine with. Ashiok. Yeah, presumably that just upticks. I gotta imagine the only thing they care about right now is blocking Hull. They might leave the 5/5 back here to block Strict Proctor, or they could kill Strict Proctor. That doesn't leave us with a lot. Mostly we're dead to the 5/5, huh? With 2 counter spells. Oh, I still can't good game? Okay, well, that's unfortunate. I feel like a scumbag for not GGing before I'm conceding, but I physically cannot.